Welcome to Zuid-Afrikahuis. Welcome to our audience and our online viewers. Today we are having a conversation with the journalist, a program that is part of an exchange with South African journalists for the last, I think, for since 2016. Um, and we have a new journalist here every 2 months. So this event is basically where the journalist in residence comes to tell us about themselves or the story that they write. And for today, we have Carl Thomas, our residence journalist. He is from Atlantis, Cape Town. um, he wrote his first article in his matric year for the Burger. He completed his internship in 2020 and then became permanent in 2021, May. Um, yeah, I would like to welcome, without further ado, I would like to welcome Carl Thomas as Carl Thomas as he tells us today about himself and his journey in journalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that lovely intro, Jose. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carl Thomas, and I'm a journalist who work for Netwerk 24, the Cape Town office back in South Africa. Netwerk 24, not to be confused with News 24, is the Afrikaans subscription-based news service, and it's nationally. You can even read it internationally for those South Africans overboard. And then, of course, just to start off, my title is Navigating Tragedies from the Perspective of a Young Journalist. The young journalist part is because I am basically 3 years now a journalist. Completed my honors degree in 2020, yeah, the COVID year, just to take everyone back to that nightmare. And just to, of course, start off with myself, my journey actually starts off with the newspaper that I'm writing for now. Back in my matric year, a journalist called Annika Mare wrote a story about basically my life. So she wrote about the struggles I had to go through in order to get to high school, basically. My high school was, I think, an hour away from me, and it was considered a white school. So for a colored person like me, it was quite a thing to be accepted to this school. And I did, not to toot my own horn, I didn't do too bad academically, and that is why Annika picked up the story. So one day she came to me in the morning. She took the bus with me to school. She took all those pictures, and then the story was in the burger. And from that day on, I always wanted to become a journalist because when this article was posted, I got a bursary to study and I got hostel money to study. Basically, my own university career or university journey was sorted just because of this one story. And this story taught me the power of journalism. And I was like, I really also want to change the world. And through words, this is how I can change the world, to be a journalist. So I had first-hand experience of the power of journalism, and I really also wanted to be that superhero that Annika was for me on the day she published this story. So this is basically just a PowerPoint stating how that story of me, Carl, my name was literally on the front page of the burger as the person that was written about. Now my name is on the front page of the burger as the person writing the stories. So working at the burger is quite a full circle moment for me, and also quite sentimental because it just shows also for me how far I've come, of course. Now I'm just going to tell you a bit about the stories that I write. I am what they call a general journalist, so I write a bit about everything. I do have found kind of a beat in the sense that because I was or started my journalism journey in the COVID times, I was thrown into the deep end where I had to write a lot about people who died during COVID-19. I had to write about sisters, for example, that died 4 hours apart from each other. I had to write about a son who heard that his father died. And when he flown from overseas back to South Africa and he landed in South Africa, he heard his mother also died from COVID-19. So I had to do vicious stories like that, which was quite difficult to navigate, to be honest. And that's why I titled this presentation Navigating Tragedies, because it's basically what I had to do. And because I also had to work a lot from home during that time, I had to learn how to navigate these tragedies on my own. So I am going to take you through some of the biggest stories that I've done since I've started working for Netwerk 24. Unfortunately, most of them are going to be tragic, but I do hope at the end that I will give you a bit of laugh from the light stories that I've also been doing, because I laugh for them, and I think if I laugh for something, it's funny. So yes, just to take you quickly through some headlines that I've done over the past 3 years, just to give you a slight kind of idea of the kind of stories that I do. The English headlines are the help thing to Google Translate. So if it doesn't make sense, just ask a bit, and I will clear it. But I think it does. It gives you also an idea of what the story was about. The first one reads: Peter, 56 years old, fired after tickling 13-year-olds under breasts. I think that makes sense. Don't have to say a lot about that. The next one reads: Woman describes traumatic moment when car with two children in catches fire. Luckily, these children survived, but the injuries they sustained was very, very, very traumatic, and they're still recovering it from that to this day. This story, of course, happened this year, 30 August. Now, next headline: Mother knows son is dead when she sees crumpled up car. Next headline: Girl 14 saw dead because he apparently did not want to go out with teenager. This boy basically went into the house after the girl said no to him for a relationship and just killed her. He shot her in the head. Next headline: 18-year-old arrested after fetus found in rubbish bin. Next one: Young man dies in brother's arms after taxi hits him, apparently sped away. Next one: Boy 9 dies of leukemia. I want Jesus to come and take away the pain. I did a lot of these kind of stories where cancer would take the lives of young children or even young adults, sometimes unexpectedly on a day. I mean, even if you know your person is diagnosed with a terminal illness, you never know when that day comes. So to bring out the emotion and to sketch a picture of who this person was is quite an honor to me, because I also see articles about people who died as a last memory whereby people can remember them by. Next heading: Woman tries in vain to save baby who falls in bucket of water. The baby did not survive. Next headline: Son comes across mother's body after dogs tear her apart. So these are the kind of gruesome stories that I do on a daily basis back in Cape Town. It's just a bit quick overview of them, but now I'm going to go into detail about some of the bigger stories that I've done. The first story hits close to home, literally, because it actually happened in Atlantis, where I am from. The girl you see there on that picture is a girl that I knew. I heard everyone talking about her being missing, but everyone still had hope that she would be found alive. Lamise Dolman was a 21-year-old girl who went missing on 22 September 2021. She was a disabled girl and was diagnosed with Turner syndrome. Turner syndrome is a condition that only affects females, and it is basically, it results when one of the X chromosomes is missing or partially missing. It can cause thus a variety of medical and developmental problems, including short height, failure of the ovaries to develop, and heart defects. The tragedy about this story in particular is that Lamisa's body was found one morning by her dad on his way to work. She had already been missing for a week when he discovered her body half naked from the middle down in an open field. The field had a lot of long reeds, so it was quite difficult to see whether a body would be dumped there. But her father told me when I spoke to him that that morning something just told him to look in this field, because the family had been giving up hope that their daughter would ever be found. The family had also already combed through that open field. So when the body was found, they do suspect that the body might have been dumped there during the early hours of that morning when the dad found her. The dad took that shortcut through the open field because that's what he does every morning. He found her lying there, and it was like he couldn't move, he tells me. He probably stood there for about 10 minutes before he turned around to go tell his wife that he discovered their daughter's body. A 35-year-old man was taken in for questioning but was released after no evidence could be found linking him to the murder. It was said that the suspect had been in jail before for murder and that he was mentally disturbed. When he was released, the community acted so badly that the police had to pick him up again just to keep him safe. No one has since been arrested for Lamisa's death. And when I walk across the open field where she was found, I still think of her and her future that was robbed so violently from her. I also attended Lamisa's funeral. The image you see on screen is the exact location where Lamise was found. She was found in the hole, or the kind of hole that you can see there where the arrow is pointing to. The next story involves this car, a Toyota Yaris. It was 30 December 2021, just before the turn of a new year, and five female friends were on their way to get some groceries for a New Year's camp that they were having in Robertson, about 2 hour drive from Cape Town. The girls were all from Cape Town and were between the ages of 21 and 24 years old. All five of them died when their car collided with a truck. In the car were two sisters, Angelique and Sante Kluter, and their friends, Jamie Peters, Jenna Moses, and Tessie Gordon. Only Jamie's parents were on that camp. The other parents drove through the next morning to identify the bodies of their children. All that went through my mind when I wrote the first of around 8 articles about this accident was how that drive for the parents must have been, how the new year must have been. This story was published on 31 December. It was quite a somber end to the year to have to write about this. None of the parents even wanted to talk when we approached them, which is totally understandable given what they are going through. We eventually got a hold of a spokesperson who knew the children and the parents involved. This was the first time I covered a story from start to finish. I wrote about the accident. I wrote about every girl's funeral. I wrote about the mass memorial that was attended by around 1,000 people, where the boyfriend of each girl delivered memorials in tears. With every story I wrote, I wanted people to know who these girls were and not just how they died. And I hope I achieved that. I firmly believe that people are more than just their last moment on earth. And that is how I approach every article that I do write about people who died. Allow me to give you a bit of a break from tragic stories. The next story is, however, still a bit shocking. It is a story that made the whole of South Africa lose their minds. It involves a white student, Tian Statue, who urinated on a black student's belongings. The black student Babalo Ndwayana made a video of Tian's urinating on his belongings in the resident room, and it spread like wildfire on social media. Tiens and Babalo was in the same residence in Huismare. Huismare is part of Stellenbosch University in Stellenbosch. Babalo said when he asked Tiens why he did it, a visibly drunken Tiens apparently said, "It's a white boy thing to do." This sentence, however, was never caught on camera, but formed the crux of the debate that sprung from it right after the video was posted. The room Tien's urinated in was not his. Babalo said a room with a friend of Tien's. Tien's can be heard asking where Babalo's roommate is while urinating in the room. Watch the video. Mm.
Oi, peeing pra in my room. Huh? Oi, peeing in my room, pra. Waiting for someone. Huh? Oi. What, pra? Waiting for room, man. What?
Oh, thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Getting used to using a MacBook. The video you just saw was the short video that Babalo made. But as you heard, the sentence, "it's a white boy thing to do," was not part of that video. This incident happened around 4 a.m. on 15 May, and it led to extreme outrage and protests from students on the university. Even national political parties got involved and jumped on the wagon. TNC Babalo's faces were everywhere. Here is a video of a, well, we can call it a protest that happened on the University of Stellenbosch, where Tiens in Babalo is from.
Yes, about it, but we're still experiencing the same racism, the same discrimination, the same injustice. And right, our change to happen now. Management must come out with that message. Demand. Thousand was built to get. Our second demand is we want the Haze Marais House Committee to be dissolved. Our third demand is we want the establishment of the Institutional Reconciliation and Transformation Commission, the IRTC, focused on racism at Stellenbosch. The focus on racism at Stellenbosch University, we want a commission created, and we want the commission to be chaired by external people for transparency sake. The Stellenbosch University administrators must stop the victimization of Black student leaders, starting with the immediate removal of the suspension of Lisa Popaya from the vehicle. You will sleep here. You will wait for you to get. You will sleep there.
Tiens was expelled from his residence and the university on the basis of urinating on Babalo's belongings and on the basis of racism. He was a first year student studying to become a lawyer. He tried to appeal the university's decision but was unsuccessful. He is now appealing that decision in the High Court in Cape Town, especially the racism verdict. One of the key evidence in Tiens's university hearing was the reliance placed on written statements by Babalo. Babalo, however, refused to give an oral testimony in the university hearing. Tiens did. Tiens's legal team is arguing that the independent university panel that came to the initial conclusion was biased in their decision, especially since there was a lot of national attention that the university was getting about this incident. Since Tiens's incident, there was another urinating incident in Zuid-Afrikahuis residence on the University of Stellenbosch, where a drunk student urinated on their roommate's chair and on their room floor. He was expelled from the residence but could continue with his studies as long as he doesn't break any more university rules. He also had to do 150 hours of community work to rehabilitate himself. Another incident in Eendrag residence right next to Zuid-Afrikahuis involved another white student apparently urinating on two black students' belongings. He was expelled from the university, but this decision was later successfully appealed on the basis that he was very drunk and disorientated at the time of the event. He remained expelled from the residence and had to also do 150 hours of community work. In a separate incident, a male student also had sex with a female student without her consent, and he was permanently expelled from the university. This decision was later changed to a 2-year expulsion. The three cases above were also not debated on a national stage, such as the Babalo versus Tiens case, which some people argued play a big role in the outcome of that decision as well. The appeal case is currently still underway in the Cape Town High Court. Back to the tragic stories, but staying in Stellenbosch. The next story was a missing people's case that turned into one of the biggest mysteries in Stellenbosch. The two first year students you see before you, Ethan Kirkland and Layla Lees, went missing in September last year on a Friday night. The two were a couple. They were apparently out in town celebrating a particular occasion. They were last seen by a friend whom they went to drop at the residence before returning to Ethan's apartment. They, however, never reached Ethan's apartment that night. Pictures of the two of them circulated the whole weekend. On 24 October, the Monday thereafter, I was put on the story, and by 11 a.m., we received tips that a car matching the description the two were driving was found in an excavation site that was filled with water and long reeds. The car was found apparently by young boys who were looking for scraps. They only saw one of the back tires sticking out of the water between the reeds. When they wanted to go get the tire that was sticking out, they realized it didn't want to come out and it was attached to something. They then alerted workers across the road. I had to rush to Stellenbosch, and I was there when they took out both bodies and lifted the car out of the water. That day, I also talked to a pregnant woman who lived across from the excavation site. She said she heard what sounded like screeching tires and a big accident happening on Friday night around 23:49, just before midnight. The same night, the two went missing. She even sent a WhatsApp message on their security company group so a patrol car could go look for them. The patrol car went to look but found nothing. Bear in mind, it was load shedding during this time. Load shedding, for those who don't know, is when the power gets put off for everyone in a particular area for up to 2 or 4 hours at a time. This is to reduce the demand of electricity on the energy generating system. It was assumed the patrol car looked for some car stuck on the road or on the side of the road, but the car Ethan and Layla was driving were probably already busy sinking in the excavation site. In the video we received, you can see the car driving through the flimsy wire gate. You will see that video in a few minutes. What was the saddest of all was that Ethan lived in the same street where this accident happened, about 400 meters away. People walked past that excavation site the whole weekend looking for them and never thought that they were in there. Both were underwater for a whole weekend. Still, the question on everyone's lips were, how did the car end up in that excavation site? Network 24 was the first publication to publish the video that showed how the accident occurred. One of my colleagues helped me to get a hold of this video, and when we published it, South Africa went crazy. Please take a look. Just before I play this video again, do notice in the
Yeah, I've been
from my
consistently clear
side,
that
it's the
you
right
have
hand corner, the car coming and just suddenly turning right. No one really knows what happened in that car that led to the accident, but that is how the accident happened. Only Layla and Ethan was in the car when the accident happened. Up until this day, it is still not clear what led to the accident. It was, however, established that the two young people did not die on impact, they drowned. Up until this day, the excavation site where the two were found is still in the same condition as it was. There have been numerous calls to fill the site, but little to no progress have been made. People did argue that if this excavation site perhaps had bricks that covered it, the car would have just hit the brick wall. However, that is a debate for another day. The next story. On the morning of 30 May this year, I was on my way to work when I was flooded with videos and photos of the most gruesome scene. A bakkie, or as some of you may call it, a pickup truck, was transporting young children to primary school when it lost control, flipped, and rolled multiple times. 5 children, the youngest being 5 years old, died that day. A sixth one died a few months later in hospital after battling his very serious injuries. They were all from different schools. This story rattled me because people literally sent videos around on social media showing how the children laid all over the road. They were flung out from the back of the pickup truck as the canopy burst when it rolled. One body was even under a taxi. All you could see were his shoes sticking out. Some family members found out about that accident on Facebook. People were very quick to upload photos and videos. We did not publish any of the videos. It was too gruesome. When I went to the scene the next day and I drove down the road where the accident happened, it felt weird to picture that the day before, the road was filled with young children's lifeless bodies just laying there. The driver of the bakkie, Umninikaya Mvuli, was arrested on charges of manslaughter and reckless driving. He was released on bail. Umninikaya's own stepdaughter also died in that accident. He was also transporting her to school. This story led to debates about safer school transport and children not getting placed in schools in their own areas. All the learners who died did not live in the area of Mitchell's Plain where the accident happened. They lived in Khayelitsha, about 20 minutes from Mitchell's Plain. School transport transporting overloaded vehicles were also not something new but got renewed attention. The city of Cape Town municipality even released a video where they exposed multiple drivers who drove illegally with unroady vehicles, vehicles that was overloaded, or who did not have operating licenses. In all these instances, these people were endangering the lives of the kids they were transporting. The next video shows examples of that.
The last term, we saw several horrible tragedies involving learners and unlawful scholar transport operators. The city was accused of not having done enough to prevent these horrible tragedies, but we were soon able to dispel that by demonstrating that the statistics showed that the city's enforcement services were active on a daily basis and had taken significant action against these operators. Our scholar transport enforcement operations continue daily in areas across the city, but it does appear that the message that we're trying to give the operators is falling on deaf ears. I recently joined an operation in Mitchell's Plain and witnessed how our officers were fining illegal operators, many of them without even a driver's license, and how our officers were impounding vehicles that were not even roadworthy or were horribly unsafe for the purposes of transporting scholars or learners. Perhaps the most concerning encounter of that day was when officers pulled over a taxi where 16 children were squeezed into the vehicle, including 4 that were wedged between the rear hatch and the back seat. The driver was just 16 years old and said to us that his father had instructed him to drive the vehicle that day. 16 kids in a condo. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Ask him if your father knows he has the car. He says his father knows he has the car. His father allows a minor to transport 60. The father was arrested on 4 charges of endangering the lives of a minor. And we may well have saved the lives of some of their children on that day, but we can't be everywhere all the time. Over the years, I've pleaded with parents to make responsible decisions for their children, make sure that they are being transported by registered operators who are using suitable and roadworthy vehicles and who themselves are responsible drivers and correctly licensed. The lives of your children are worth it.
The case against the driver is still ongoing to this day. The next story. On 1 August this year, a violent taxi stay-away strike occurred for about 10 days in the Western Cape province of South Africa. Although there is much contention about what happened on that Tuesday afternoon before the strike was called, it was said that a taxi's window was apparently broken by a law enforcement officer and a taxi driver was assaulted by law enforcement officers. However, law enforcement says it was busy applying the law by inspecting taxis and handing out fines for non-compliance. A law enforcement officer was apparently then attacked by a taxi driver when he wanted to issue a fine. A very violent clash broke out, resulting in an immediate stay away by taxis that ensued. It was also said that the taxi drivers apparently fired live shots. A firearm, however, was never found. The taxi associations argue that taxis are being targeted by the municipality, where the municipality keeps on impounding them for a lot of reasons, especially apparently small reasons. The municipality, however, says that taxis are being impounded according to the rules of the country. The taxi associations argue that taxis are impounded way too easily and that some offenses would be more suitable by just giving a fine rather than impounding the taxi, meaning taking away the taxi. People, including pregnant women, could be seen walking home on that first day of the strike due to the unexpected calling of it. In the Western Cape, especially in the city of Cape Town, the majority of the population make use of taxis because it is the cheapest form of transport. Taxis, however, are not really regulated under the national law. It is more funded and driven by people that basically puts their own businesses in place, if I can explain it like that. In 2020, about 900,000 people in the Western Cape made use of taxis. The taxi associations, for example, argued that if the municipality is not that happy with the conditions that taxis operate under, they must also help the industry by giving some finances so they can formalize and put conditions in place that would be more suitable into the liking and taste of the municipality. In the 10 days that followed, multiple buses were stoned and burned, people were injured, infrastructures was damaged, and 5 people were killed. A British orthopedic surgeon was shot dead in an informal settlement area. He took a wrong turn and was with his family when he was shot. A law enforcement officer was also shot dead while on duty. Another 3 unidentified people were also killed. Private vehicles were stoned, and at least 9 buses were burned, and another 200 heavily damaged. The school system was also affected. On the worst day of the strike, around 850,000 learners did not attend school. A lot of businesses also closed for the majority of the 10 days. Cape Town was empty and felt like back in the COVID-19 days. Everywhere you looked, businesses were closed. People literally feared for their lives to take the bus because they were too afraid the bus would be burned or stoned. The total damage of the whole strike, including the impact on the economy, led to be about 5 billion rand. That is about 248 million euros. A much heated debate took place in Cape Town between the Mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill Lewis, and the National Minister of Police, Becky Cele, around negotiations with the taxi associations. The city of Cape Town did not want to negotiate with the taxi associations because they did not want to engage with people that is causing violence and that is also or were also apparently killing people. They did not want to engage, how they call it, with criminals. They wanted there to be peace before they hear people because they felt if they give in to the violence and people strike again, they will just resort to violence again to be heard by the municipality. The national minister wanted negotiations to take place as soon as possible, never mind whether violence were taking place, because as he said it, the most vulnerable people and the most poorest of people were suffering by not going to work. Some businesses also instituted a no work, no pay rule. So if you didn't show up to work, even if it was just because you could not get a taxi, you did not get pay. There was also even bread shortages at the end of the day because trucks could not go around to deliver bread because why? They were also targeted and burned. In the debate that the mayor and the minister had, they also addressed rumors that circulated that apparently the national minister encouraged the strike. This was the first time I witnessed a mayor standing up to a national minister. Please take a look.
Your word now that you did not encourage them to strike. But we were not invited to that meeting. It was a closed meeting. We have no idea what was said there. There's no minutes. There's no recordings. So if you say to me that you went to that meeting and you told them not to strike, then I will accept you at your word. But it is strange for me that a national minister responsible for policing and whose officers must now help us clean up this mess, that you were there in a closed meeting without the people who are actually responsible for regulating taxis, the city and the province. So I did not say, and no member of my team has said that you encouraged the strike. We just raised questions as to why you were there.
Don't go and listen to your statement properly. You don't understand your statement. And
Well,
second, you don't understand your city and your stop. I moved around here a day before the strike was called. I went to Belleville and other taxi ranks. Everybody was stopping me, saying, Minister,
tell us who are suffering here. I don't want to enter that debate of how they're suffering. The Minister of Transport will deal with that. For that reason, because I was called to try and I had to speak to the leadership to say, whatever happens, please remember the people, ordinary people will suffer. If there's any way to avoid this going through the strike, please do so. But I want to come back to this one of negotiation. Well, I agree with you. We can't negotiate with criminality, but we can negotiate with leadership. I have seen the debate of I think it's the chair, Manda,
Yes.
and JP. So, which means when you are on TV, you negotiate. As you are here, we are on TV now, we are talking, but you don't go to the meetings. You are supposed to be in the meetings, but when it's TV, you come running. JP does debate in the TV, but he can't be in the meeting to debate with the very same Manda. Why do you go and debate with Manda that is a criminal on public and you can't debate? I'm simply saying, you go and talk these matters and solve it. Doesn't matter to come here in front. And then when you are called by the minister and all, it's only the premier that comes. It's only the MEC. The real people, which is you, Mayor, and the JP, you run around here and you come in front of TV and don't deal with the matter. I want to repeat, people that suffer there, it's not you, Mayor, it's not me. As we turn around here, we'll get on our house, definitely we'll go and sleep home and all that. But, kids are running around here. Rape is increasing, murder is increasing, the looting is increasing, and all that kind of thing. Swallow the pride and go and negotiate and find peace. And those that you say are criminals, bring them to us. Let's arrest those. But not everybody that is a criminal, including those that you are negotiating. JP will tell you who to negotiate. Continue to negotiate. Don't come in front here.
You negotiate with criminals, we won't.
When the strike ended, a taxi task team was established to look at all the problems in the taxi industry to avoid a strike like this ever from happening again. One of the rules that was orally agreed upon was, for example, that if they wanted to strike again, the taxis would give at least a 36-hour notice so that people would not have to walk home again. Ladies and gentlemen, just to end off the presentation, I would like to show you also a few light-hearted stories that I do cover. Well, first one is about we call him Picasso, like a pig, and also Picasso, the artist or the kunstenaar. Picasso is a pig that literally paints with his snout, and the painting that you see there is supposed to be Prince Harry. This painting was literally sold for 2,480 euros. So this pig is living the life. The next story is about a barber shop that opened where it is ladies that cut hair, but what makes it stand out is that these ladies do it in bikinis. The people in the area where this happened, Langebaan is the area, especially the older people went a bit crazy because they do not want their husbands to go get haircuts at this place. A lot of rumors made the rounds about the kind of services that was delivered or given to people at this place, but the barbershop called Bikini Barber do say that they only give haircuts no matter what is insinuated by the public outside. The next story was also a very, very funny story that went viral overseas even. Even Will Smith, the well-known actor, reposted this video that I'm about to show you. In the video, you can see two people that is going to get engaged. The man is going to ask the lady for her hand. The sister is supposed to take a video of this engagement. Please look how she took this video and how the video looked. I will show it from her point of view, and also luckily they had a second person taking a video from a different point of view, showing what happened when she took her point of view. The next video is the sisters video. Will Smith reposted those videos with the quote, "She had one job." Do you think she did a good job? I think that was at least an engagement that no one would forget. Ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we have reached the end of the presentation. And I would like to say thank you for everyone that was here and that also joined online, of course. I hope you enjoyed the stories that I talked about, and a discussion will follow now.
Uh, thank you, Carl, for that lovely laugh at the end after a very, very heavy
Yeah, to make
session.
you laugh as well.
But surely did. The comments of South African social media was that that lady had one job to do. But back on some serious things, and I must commend you on your journey. It must have been a lot, and I take my hat off. You do a lot of heavy stories, like a lot of soul breaking things. Um, so my first question is, how do you navigate through it personally? Do you have like a support structure at home, um, covering all of these traumatic events, speaking to all of these traumatic things? I can imagine it takes a lot from a person.
No, definitely, Jose. In the beginning, especially when I started this journalist journey, I did not know how to handle it, especially the first time a person cried in front of me when I interviewed them. For me at that time, I always thought, I'm just going there for a story. But that moment when the person started crying in front of me made me realize that this isn't just a story, this is something that really, really happened to this person. And I made a promise to myself that whenever I write about some person that died or just any event that is tragic, that I will handle it as it is the first time that I'm doing a story like that, because that is what's happening to that person. It is the first time they are going through that, and they are trusting you, the journalist, to write words that would hopefully be or that will hopefully all together when it's an article put a good picture of their family member out there. So I don't know if I have a specific supporting mechanism in place, to get me through the emotions, because I won't lie, it's tragic stories, so I feel it with the people. I don't feel a journalist has to be a brick. You're not stone. You're also a person with emotions. So if I feel it with the person, I feel it. I'm not afraid to show emotions. How I do try and navigate my feelings so that I don't go crazy is I do talk to friends about stories. I talk to my family about the stories that I just go through. But because I do these stories on a daily basis, I tend to put them behind me very quickly. And I don't know if that's good, but tomorrow is another story. I don't know if it's just because I'm still new in this industry that I haven't reached a breaking point, as you call it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I necessarily deal with these stories. I just talk about them and then I put them behind me. So one day, all those muddled up stories here behind me might get too much. But I do remember most of them. And I do try and handle my emotions quite well, I think. But if I do need services, the work has services available for you free of charge if you do need them.
That's quite well. I think it's important that they give you such a support structure to deal with these emotions afterwards, even at work. I feel like there's one burning question that we all
Mm.
like have to ask because you cover very heavy things. So the one question is like, how do you come across your stories? Where do you find that, or who sources you?
A lot of the stories I actually come across on social media. When I started this job, I probably joined every community group I could ever think of because believe it or not, people post everything on social media, every little thing they post there. So that's how I started out getting stories. By now, I have built up so many contacts that people send me stories, or that people that I've written stories about would also send me tips about stories. So that is how I mostly come across all my stories. I even follow schools, I follow organizations, I follow the smallest thing you can think of, I follow because you never know what that person might post or what that person might say or whatever. That I literally come across my stories even by maybe just walking in the street and seeing a pamphlet here or there. My eyes are open all the time, my ears are open all the time. That's why I think my family doesn't want to say anything in front of me anymore. They think I'm gonna write a story. But yeah, I'm luckily on that basis now where people do tell me a lot about stories because I for example am close with a lot of community police forum people or ward counselors I've gotten to know very well, and then they tell me about stories as well.
Oh, that's actually good that you have like such a broad network. Um, since that you're saying that you always have your journalism eye on and you're always looking and interested, my next question is then like how does what you do or the stories that you write and the stories that you're looking for impact the way you see the world and move through the world? Because some of it is very heavy, but then you also have like silly things happening, everyday things that's exceptional for someone.
Yeah, no, I mean, silly things would be I've written about baboons that took over a lady's swimming pool one day. So they were just doing jumping jacks and whatever during the pool. So I do write about silly stuff like that as well, especially when they took a video and you can see the baboons just having the best time of their lives. But yes, the heavy stories, I mean, it's not easy. To be honest, it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with heavy stuff on a daily basis, not at all. But you have to, how can I say it? Just repeat the first part of the question again. Sorry, I just want to make sure I
Because you have your eyes open. You
yeah.
never know
Oh
which
yeah, yeah,
tragedy
yeah.
can strike, but also,
I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to say I'm negative about the world now, but it's like I expect stuff to almost happen now.
mm,
I don't know if I'm negative, but I literally see accidents happening. Well, not literally see it, but I see when I get tips and stories,
mm,
accidents happen every day. People get shot every day, and a lot of the stories are literally children playing in the street. Then gangs would be shooting, and they are the ones that gets the bullet.
mm,
I think being a journalist can sometimes make you very negative about life, especially when you write the
yeah,
kind of stories that I do, because you're more faced with
with
the reality, actually.
yeah,
And it's sad to say that's the reality, but that is actually the reality that you live in. And I think before I was a journalist, I knew of these stuff happening, but I wasn't aware of it as I am now.
mm,
So, yeah. I am a bit more like, ooh, this can happen. You must be careful, And before that, I was about it could happen, but now I'm like, it can happen.
So when the family goes out for something, you're like, don't do that because this is gonna happen. You're more of the negative Nelly when it comes
Yeah.
to things.
It depends where you go, because if they maybe say a specific area, I'll be like, last week I wrote about this that happened there. Are you sure you want to go?
Okay.
So I'm more like the paranoid one now,
Mm.
I guess. Hopefully not spoiling the mood, but what can I say?
Man, it comes with the
Yeah.
description. Um, and then my last question, let me just check. If there's any questions online or in the audience. No. So then my last question for you is coming from where you do, starting off with humble beginnings and being where you are now and having the opportunities, what would you say to someone that is looking up to you or is looking at you as a role model, and what advice would you give them starting off their career or wanting to start off?
It always feels weird when people ask that question because I don't look at myself as someone to look up to because first of all I'm short. A lot of people look down on me.
Metaphorical,
Yeah, I know.
metaphorical one.
But I've been asked about it a lot actually, and I think being seen as a role model could be a lot of weight actually on your shoulders, and that's what I actually felt initially, especially when I went to a school like DF Milan, because a lot of people knew that I went there for high school because my primary school I completed there in Atlantis. And then I got seen actually through doing athletics, and then DF Milan gave me the opportunity to go there. So when I went there, I felt a lot of pressure to succeed because you don't want to be the person that went to a white school, to put it like that, and not made use of that opportunity because everyone wants to reach something in life. And in Atlantis, you don't necessarily see the best role models, even though there are, of course, the people that do make it, if you can describe it like that. So, what I would say to someone who was so is currently even in the same position as me is just even though you see so much darkness out there, I mean, in South Africa, you see darkness all the time now with load shedding. But
Of
just
course.
remember, just like load shedding, that darkness do end
Mm.
and that light will shine again. And that is what I always held on to. No matter how tough things got, I asked myself, if I give up now, will it even be a better option? And it wouldn't have been. So I
Mm.
just told myself, chew these rocks now because one day you will be able to buy your own KFC, if I can put it in a
Yes,
sentence
yes,
like
yes.
that. So it is a simple thing to say, but literally just never give up because that's what I did, even if it got tough. Because if you give up, you will never get out of those circumstances. So why give up? Because you're not happy with those
Yeah,
circumstances.
definitely.
So just never give up, and then you will definitely reach your dreams. Because someone once told me to reach your dreams one day, you never have to give up, and you need a little bit of luck. But if you give up, you will never get that little bit of
Yeah,
luck.
yeah.
So
Hand in
just
hand.
like Dory said, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Yeah.
With that, thank you for the like heartwarming and very inspirational last few words. With that, we close off today's conversation with our journalist. It was very nice to have you, Carl. And we are open to see a new journalist in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, someone from your Netwerk 24. um, but thank you for your presentation. Thank you to our audience as well as our audience online. That is it.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye bye.